So you know, like, video games? Well, I happen to be making one of those. That's right, everyone. I have recently been working on the latest and greatest new hit game by me, GunCats. GunCats is a remake of one of my old projects, which also happens to be named GunCats. And that old project was basically copied from this tutorial on how to rip off Splunky. That other roguelike I ripped off in another video, but that video was really cringe and I hate it.
Hello everyone, it's King John. Today I'm gonna show you how I made a game.
But anyways, yeah, this old project was basically Splunky, but with cats. And guns. I basically just stole most of the enemy designs, as well as the random generation. Splunky's random generation actually works in a pretty interesting way. Basically, you generate a path out of a bunch of rooms from the entrance to the exit, then spawn in a bunch of other rooms in the rest of the level. But then the cool thing is that these rooms within themselves are all also slightly randomly generated with small tweaks. Like maybe there's an enemy here in one version of this room, but in another that enemy is replaced with a block. The old version of GunCats had random generation that was basically exactly the same as this. The only slightly unique mechanic I had was this recoil thing when you shoot your gun, which, looking back at it, it wasn't even that good. So for this project, I wanted to do things differently, and not fall victim to my past mistakes. So I had a monumental idea. I made it so you go up instead of down. Oh, and there's also a new mechanic about like switching characters and stuff. Basically, you know health pickups in games, and how they're pretty helpful most of the time? Well, in GunCats, they don't exist. Instead, when your character gets low on health, you'll have to find another character willing to continue. This means that you'll have to be constantly switching between characters to heal. However, switching to another character also means you lose all your upgrades that you've gotten so far. I'm probably going to add some other system where you can save certain upgrades across characters, but I'm not completely sure how I'm going to do that yet. So for the characters I have currently, first up there's Boston. He's just the default character, that's kinda just not that good. Then we have York, who can fire bullets at a slightly faster rate, yet does less damage. And finally, Beans. She, does stuff. So, let's take a look at what I've got so far compared to old GunCats. First of all, the character will actually look in the direction he's facing and not just stare into your soul. Also, there's Squash and Stretch now, and Coyote Time, and all those other cool platformer things that make platformers super cool. Am I right, fellow platformer enjoyers? And he isn't slow as hell anymore. Look at this! How are you supposed to get around like this? Furthermore, you remember that mechanic about shooting to get around? Well, I reworked that, made it a bit better, and now it's pretty cool. Anyways, there's also better enemies now, like this spiked flying robot that flies towards you, or this little guy. I wonder what he does. There's even turrets. I bet you can't guess what they do. I have a lot of interactable things that aren't enemies as well, like landmines, or the slightly less exciting conveyor belts. Although the conveyor belts are really simple, they were a lot harder to implement than you'd think. First of all, we want these conveyor belts animated with each of the frames for every possible tile they could be, so that took a while to finish. However, there was a problem in getting them to all sync up. So I have an auto-tiling script that basically syncs up adjacent tiles of the same type so they all have an outline around them. But the problem with doing this on animated tiles is that if there are conveyor belts and two different chunks that want to connect, if those two different chunks spawned at different times, the animations won't sync up properly and it looks weird. So instead, I have to use a global timer that only starts the conveyor belt animations when it knows all the conveyor belts. And yeah, kinda like stuff like that, you know? So anyways, there's also a new upgrade system where these upgrades will drop from enemies, such as Cat Scratcher, which increases your damage. I also wanted some items that do cooler stuff than just a stat boost, and that give the player a custom script as well. So to test this, I added the litter box item, which can make the player create exploding poop every couple seconds. Because why not? And finally, the guns. In the last GunCats, there was only one gun, a pistol. In the new remake, however, there's a whole new arsenal for the player. First up, we have the handgun, which is basically just the crappiest gun in the game. It's the one you get by default, and it kinda sucks. Then there's the shotgun, which shoots 3 bullets instead of 1. Then we have the double gun, which shoots 2 bullets. It's not really that different from a normal gun, but it feels cooler to use. Then we have the gun. And this one is kinda where I started running out of ideas for names. Basically, this one will shoot super fast but deal low damage. And finally, the minigun. It, does this. And finally, the boss. I've been working on a design for a mech boss for the first area, which is the Iron Factory. I've got a couple designs right now. I don't really know which one I'm going to choose or what attacks I'll add. But one thing I want to make sure of is that the boss will be able to work in the randomly generated areas and actually target the player no matter the terrain. Now this might get tricky since the boss has a big hitbox and won't be able to get through a lot of the small crevices that the player can. Hopefully I can find some genius and witty solution to this before the next devlog, but unfortunately I haven't really thought of anything yet. So that's all I've got so far on this game. Next devlog I'll probably be adding in the boss. So if you have any cool ideas for attacks or anything, you can make a comment or join the official GunCats Discord server. The most active Discord server ever made. Well, but someday, probably. Anyways, bye!